Hello guys, and welcome to today's video. And this first video we're going to be doing today is going to be the Atlantic hurricane season outlook and discussion for the off season here. We're going to be looking at sea surface temperatures and whether they have changed any over the last 3 days since I've last checked these for you guys. We're going to be looking at the CFS models to see if those have uptrended in precipitation anomalies and or lower or higher of the wind shear values. And we might take a look at the GFS and Euro for the next week or so to see if there's anything brewing out there. Just we're getting to that time of year where we start to get some signals in the subtropics and tropical Atlantic, and there could be a signal out there right now, but that's way too far out, about 280 hours to like 300 hours out. So we're just gonna have to monitor the situation as we head out through time, as we head closer and closer to May, and then the closer and closer start to the hurricane season, which by May 15th we're going to be starting the tropical weather outlooks in the national Atlantic. All right, so now we're going to take a look at the coral reef and watch sea surface temperatures. These are the actual temperatures they are at the current point in time, and you can see that the Gulf Stream here got some 26s popping up. This warm pool here in the Gulf Stream has been slowly but surely progressing northward, and I foresee this happening for the next couple of days until the next cold front comes through in the weekend, which should bump these sea surface temperatures down a little bit. But from what I've heard, the final SSW event is starting to happen, so that's going to kill off the polar vortex, which this should be the last cold front that should come in with any significant cold weather for these waters. So after this weekend, we're going to have to see how these water temperatures progress over the coming weeks and months ahead. And what you see here, you got 26s popping up here in the Gulf Stream, here near Florida, and then you got this loop current here that is trying to pull in these 26s and 27s here in the southeastern Gulf of Mexico. Caribbean, you got 27s and some 28s popping up here, and then here in the western MDR, these water temperatures are starting to creep up past the 12-degree line now, so these waters are heating up a little bit as we head out through time. All right, so now we're going to take a look at the whole picture here. And what you see here is past the 50 line, you got sea surface temperatures of 26 degrees Celsius on this 12 north line. So these waters are, like I said, they're slowly but surely creeping up north. And that's something we're going to have to pay attention to as we head out through, the next 2 months as we head towards June. And you can see here, going east of the 50 west line, that these 26-degree waters are nearing the 10 to 11 degree north line. So yes, they are progressing, but very, very slowly. But you can see here at the equatorial Pacific that these waters are about 28 degrees Celsius, 27 degrees Celsius in some places. Now, some models do anticipate a Atlantic La Nina. So what that will do is that will bring the ETSI farther north, and we won't get a shutdown like we did last October and November, because what happened was most of the tropical waves that came off of Africa propagated into South America, and they didn't get a chance to get going in the Caribbean or the Gulf of Mexico where they typically would in October and November. So I don't foresee that being the case this year, as the forecasts are calling for a Atlantic La Nina. All right, so now here are the sea surface temperatures anomalies, which are the departures from normal. And as you can see, from three days ago, not much has changed. The subtropics are still warm as hell. The Gulf Stream is still warm as hell. We got the loop current that's still warm. We got above average here in the western Gulf of Mexico. We got some below average temps in sprinkled spots here in the Gulf of Mexico, but I do foresee those changing as we get farther in time and the sun angle gets even progressively higher angle here. All right, so most of the northwestern Caribbean is above normal too, and we got a mixed bag here in the rest of the Caribbean. We got some below average temperatures, we got above average temperatures, and we got some neutral temperature anomalies here. So this has been staying pretty consistent as of the last couple of weeks. As you can see here in the western MDR, southern subtropics here, we got neutrals. We've got some pockets of cooler anomalies, but it's mostly a mix up between warmer than normal and neutral, staying about the same. All right, so is the whole picture, so to speak. And I've said this a couple of times throughout the videos. This look over here in the MDR region is not a good look for hyperactive ACE. This up here in the subtropics, the warm subtropics, that might be conducive for hyperactive storm count activity, but not an ACE. So, I've been saying this off and on that even if you have a warm subtropics and a warm MDR, there's still going to be some instability problems that are going to take shape here in the main development region. So, say in 2021, we had a warm subtropics and a warm, MDR region, and it still caused instability for some of these systems that tried to get going, but they just really couldn't. The only exception being Sam and Larry, which were major ACE producers for that last year's season. So, we're just going to have to see how this all pans out. But if this look continues, I do see a pretty decent storm count because, the subtropics are going to be spitting out storms because it's, above average for sea surface temperatures. Obviously we're going to have to see how the wind shear plays out and what kind of precipitation we're going to have, which we'll be taking a look at here shortly. All right, so now we're going to take a look at the ENSO 3.4 region. And, peaks and valleys, that's the name of the game here. And you can see here towards the end here that we had a pretty steep incline of the sea surface temperatures here in the Nino 3.4 region. Then it dipped again, and now it's going back up again. This is, the fluctuations. You're going to get fluctuations in the ENSO 3.4 region, no matter what. So, well, there could be some westerly wind bursts here, or is that easterly? Easterly, yeah. The easterly wind bursts could be coming back to solidify the La Nina as we go farther out through time. And right now we're at a negative 0.771 degrees Celsius below the long-term average in the ENSO region. So what this will do is, whether you're in a cool, neutral, or a La Nina, that's going to pretty much, take some of the wind shear away from the Caribbean and the western main development region. And that's going to cause these storms to thrive and, form and, maybe, we get more storms or stronger storms, depending on what the wind shear is like in certain areas. Right now, we're looking at less wind shear in the Caribbean and Western MDR regions of the tropics. All right, so now we're going to take a look at May and June on the CFS, because once we get past June, that's when it starts to get really, really unreliable. Obviously we went past June for our prediction video, and that's because we needed to see the whole picture, but when we do these regular off seasons and discussions, we're only going to go out May, June. We're pretty much the first 2 months. That's all we're going to do. And right now, we're looking at the CFS version 2 total accumulated precipitation anomalies for May, and you can see that there's tons of precipitation here in the Caribbean, parts of the subtropics, and those are the main suspect areas that we look for in the month of May and June, really, as it pertains to subtropical or tropical development of systems. And so right now you can see that we have some pretty decent precipitation anomalies for these areas. Now that doesn't necessarily mean that a tropical system is going to form, but that just tells you that there's a lot of juice in the atmosphere in these areas and if the conditions are favorable enough, that can spin up a system, or this can be your typical pop-up shower or thunderstorm, because in the month of May it starts to get hotter, and then the instability and stuff like that builds up thunderstorms. So you just never know. But from the looks of May, we've got a juicy atmosphere in the Caribbean and the subtropics areas. All right, so here's the month of June, and as you can see, it's not as pronounced as May's precipitation, but you can see that we got some precipitation here in the Gulf of Mexico, Bay of Campeche, and parts of the subtropics and Bahamas here. So you never know. That's something may try to develop from this juicy atmosphere along these green areas. It's possible, as long as the everything else is favorable with this precipitation anomalies. But as you can see here, an interesting type of look here for the MDR region too, as it's starting to the tropical wave train is starting to pick up a little bit of steam here. You can see the precipitation anomalies here starting to get a little bit bigger as we head out through June. All right, so here we are with the precipitation. Well, not the precipitation, but the bulk shear here for the month of May. And you can see that the suspect spots, as you can see here, it's full of pretty decent favorable wind shear here. So, it's got the precipitation, it's got the wind shear. The next thing we're looking for is the MJO, probably in this case, which I do think it'll move in around, sometime in, April or May. The MJO should finally start moving into the Atlantic, which, I forgot to pull that up here. But next time I do an outlook and discussion, I will pull that up for you guys. So, as you can see here, where you see the precipitation anomalies here, you got favorable wind shear. So, it's got two of the couple of things that is favorable for any type of development here as we go out through the month of May. But you can see here in the subtropics here, right? There is semi-favorable wind shear. We got some neutrals, but then we got some, oranges and yellows popping up here too. But we're just gonna have to see how that all pans out. So here we are in the month of June, and you can see that we got some pretty favorable precipitation here, or not precipitation, but wind shear anomalies here, where you see the greens here, Gulf of Mexico, Bahamas, subtropics. There you go. We got neutral to favorable here across the whole entire, precipitation field for the month of June. So, that should be interesting to see how that all pans out as we go out through time. All right, so now what we're going to do here is look at the GFS for the next 7 days. We're going to go out 7 days here. This is the point in time in April where we start to see signs, but obviously, like I said at the start of the video, that's a little bit too far out. We're going to have to see how it all pans out. So as we go out through time, you can see all these fronts that are coming off of the eastern United States, and what these fronts tend to do here as we get later into spring, they start to stall. And what we look for here is if, say, part of the moisture from the tail of the front breaks off and tries to do something with it. And as you can see, through the next 8 days, we don't see that happening, at least right now. So as you can see, I point this out a couple of times in the past. We got a high here, the Azores high. We got a high here. This is probably the Bermuda high. And then you got this weakness, right? So if this was August or September, we see an MDR system roll off the coast of Africa here, it's going to find that weakness here and head right out to sea. Now, the only place that may get affected by this is Bermuda here. So this is, like I said, this is an example. If it was, say, like I said, September or October. But right now, we're not really seeing anything on the GFS. So what about the European? We're going to go to 0.6 so we can go out farther there. As you can see, it's the same old song and dance as the GFS. These fronts coming off of the eastern United States. And, like I said, tail end of fronts, that's how you look at it. And right now, we're not looking at that right now. As you can see, just like the GFS, there's the weakness in the atmosphere for storms to exit stage right and not bother land at all. If this was, like I said, September or October. Anyways, that's going to be it for me for right now. This is my first of 2 videos today. My next video update is going to be on Tropical Cyclone 23, which is in the South Pacific, which could be a threat for New Caledonia. Anyways, until then, I want to thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys have a great day.